Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Judge Jeanine does not hold back on this ridiculous ABC reporter who has no idea how bad things really are in Washington, D.C. Let's dive in.
You know, the last time the National Guard was deployed here in our nation's capital, as you know, was 2021 after the deadly insurrection. Let me ask you, why take such extreme measures to fight crime now?
Well, I think that there is a crime emergency in D.C. And, people say, well, crime is down from last year. Well, so what? Last year, crime was too high. We had the fourth largest, highest homicide rate in the nation. I mean, so let's stop, namby-pambying this. What we've got in this great city, and the president has a constitutional obligation to make sure that this city is safe. And he is doing just that by today deploying the National Guard and making sure that there is enough armed forces, enough forces with the DEA, the FBI, the ATF, the National Guard, to make sure that we send a message to young people and criminals throughout the district that we are watching you, that it's not going to be the same old, that we are taking crime seriously. Because just like I know, if you live in this area, that there are too many young people committing crimes. They're emboldened to commit crimes because they know they're too young to be arrested. If you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and you shoot someone in the District of Columbia, I cannot prosecute you. And I'm not just talking about federal crimes. I'm talking about my job as a local DA. Unless you kill that person, I cannot handle the case at all. And young people know it. And that's why we had an intern who went out for ice cream who got shot in the chest last month, an intern in college. We had another individual who was beat down, and but for the grace of God, a cop car drove by, he would have been beaten more severely. He had a broken nose and a severe concussion. 12 and 13-year-old trying to break into the car with a woman in the car that he was trying to protect. And we've got young people in this city. I named them on a bulletin board that I'm happy to show you, who have been murdered with guns where there isn't even a prosecution because the shooters haven't been found or they're too young. So it's about time we recognize that this is something that is sorely needed. And the decision by the president to restore law and order is one that I would think that most law-abiding citizens in D.C. would be very happy about.
All right, you just pointed out that much of the crime here that's happening in our nation's capital is committed by, and this is the term you've used, young thugs. You've said that a lot. So
I said young punks. Yeah.
Young punks. Okay.
Yeah.
So what will happen with these minors now?
Okay, what we're going to do is we are now going to move to get the D.C. Council to change their Youth Rehabilitation Act, the Incarceration Reduction Act, and their record sealing act. The D.C. Council has done nothing but draft legislation and pass laws that literally erase the ability of judges to sentence individuals appropriately. So if a 19-year-old gets on a public bus, imagine yourself on this bus. It's a public bus. There's a family on the bus. He comes on the bus with an illegal gun, shoots someone in the chest. What does that tell you? In the chest, that is an intent to kill. The kid doesn't die who's shot. The judge sentences this 19-year-old with an illegal gun to what? To probation for a couple of years, says go to college. No, this is unacceptable. And what we've got to do now is we've got to lower the age. We've got to lower the age to 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. Because if these kids, even if they are arrested and they go to family court, what is the focus? The focus is rehabilitation. What is rehabilitation? You can go to yoga. You can go to an ice cream social. No, let's stop playing games. People's lives are impacted. People who work in the district are afraid to go out at night. Congresspeople's family members are not interested in coming here. The people who live here and don't have their own protection deserve to be protected. And that's what the president's going to do, and that's what I'm going to do. So it starts today. but there's a lot more that we've got to do going forward. And this cashless bail nonsense is for the birds. We've got to change that as well. The idea that someone can keep getting cashless bail and keep being removed and allowed into the community again emboldens the criminals to believe that they cannot be stopped.
Good for Judge Jeanine and good for President Trump. It's time that the federal government takes the one place that they can actually do some good when it comes to using force, and it's not just at the border, but it's in the entire DC district. Okay? I don't think we fully understand how bad things are in DC, and the worst part is the numbers are down. Okay, that's like saying, okay, the floodwaters are now at our chest. We're no longer at risk of drowning. We can still stand on our feet, but there's still flood water. Hey, y'all. Experts say they rig the markets, print the money, and manipulate the system. But here's the truth. They can't print gold. While the dollar weakens, physical gold and silver stay real, tangible, uncontrolled. When banks go digital and emergencies lock you out of your own funds, gold and silver won't need an internet connection or government permission. Their value is outside the system, a time-tested insurance policy against tyranny, inflation, and economic resets. So don't wait until the trap is sprung. Own what the elites hoard behind closed doors. Physical gold and silver off the grid, because when the system fails, real money talks. And to help you learn more about owning physical gold and silver, we have partnered with the great company Goldco, which supports this channel, which we deeply appreciate. So check out politibralgold.com for more info and see if you might even qualify for free silver. That's politibralgold.com. There's still damage. There's still problems that continue to permeate throughout the entire district. And let's be honest, folks, there are 3 areas that are safe in DC. Okay, just 3. And all of them are right on these weird fringes. Okay, first there's the National Mall. You don't see homeless people in the National Mall because they make sure that the homeless don't go to the National Mall. That's why they all hang out at, the metro stations just outside, and the homeless camps are quite literally just 2 blocks away on the north side of the mall. Then, one of the safer areas is Georgetown, where all these rich white liberals live. They don't know what Mambo sauce is, and they have no clue what it's like 5 blocks away, where you actually get back into the hood. And then the other one is this sort of weird curve from just north of Eastern Market, swinging down around the Capitol building, and it's wedged between, again, the Capitol building and 395. The interstates, the one that makes that huge tunnel underneath. Yeah. You go south of that, congratulations, you're in Navy Yard. Things get weird there. You go north of that, well, you are officially back in DuPont Circle, where the crazy homeless crack addicts are hanging around. And then you get north of that, your only other safe area is Rock Creek Park and the Smithsonian Zoo. DC is just a terrible place outside of these 3 areas. And it's not because of lack of access. The reality is, Democrats constantly do this. Rich white liberals constantly do this. They force themselves into a situation where there's really wealthy people and they subsidize all the poor people, and the people in the middle have to leave. They can't afford the taxes. They can't afford the crime. They can't afford the insurance, so they leave. DC also suffers from another problem, and that is they didn't want anything to outshine the National Monument. It's a big reason why Philadelphia is a tougher city to live in, because they didn't want anything to be taller than the William Penn statue outside of City Hall. And so no skyscrapers were built. That's why all the big buildings are in Arlington. That's why all the money is now on the other side of the Potomac. Unironically, it's because Democrats had no foresight, but you know what? Donald Trump has some foresight on this one, and so does Judge Jeanine. Here's what's actually going on. The act grants emergency powers to the federal government, allowing the president to take control of the city's police for up to 48 hours if he determines special conditions of an emergency nature exist, requiring the department's use for federal purposes. In other words, this is a 48-hour lease that isn't really going to do much, but it's something. It is something to say, hey, we're no longer taking this nonsense lying down. We know that Democrats can't govern, so we are going to fix the mess that they constantly put themselves in. This is a good precedent to set. And you know what? It's also a good thing that there's so many hurdles for the DC area, because that's where our FBI, well, technically it's on the other side of the Potomac. But the Pentagon, the FBI, the CIA, all of their headquarters are dotted around these areas. And if Donald Trump was to declare martial law, all of a sudden these areas lose either all of their power or they gain all of the power. This is terrible for a potential coup, and so that's why so many steps are involved here. That's why the federal government doesn't have complete and total control. That's why home rule was decreed back in 1973. This is a good thing for the process, but once again, we've noticed that the process gets completely corrupted whenever Democrats have power for too long, and ultimately their policies become terrible. DC is a mess, and it's a mess for a whole multitude of reasons, but deep down, the reality is they're soft on crime. Right? They are soft on the problems. They don't police themselves properly. It's already a tough city to navigate. It was built for the 18th and 19th centuries. It was not built for the modern era. There's a part of me that thinks, does the whole thing need just a kind of giant revamp? But no, DC can still exist. DC can still be a great place to live. You just got to realize that, well, the way they keep voting and the politics that they keep choosing makes everything worse. Ultimately, we're at a point where it's no longer the environment. It is no longer a lack of access to education or college. The problem is our laws don't go far enough to protect their own people. All because rich white liberals have segregated themselves. Okay, I mean that word very, very literally. Because this is what happens over and over and over again. It happens in Atlanta, it happens in Chicago, it happens in LA, it has certainly happened in New York City. These folks do not get out of their own neighborhoods because they know deep down what's out there, and that's why they set up their own walls. Funny how walls work, isn't it? But again, rich white liberals refuse to vote in any other direction because they like the fact that they're wealthy, and they like the fact that if they give the poor people just enough money to survive, give them some bread and circuses, they'll never rise up and say, hey, you rich white liberals, you're terrible at governing. We might need new leadership. Donald Trump is now turning that paradigm on its head, and at least it's something. And the mainstream media will continue to push this as Donald Trump is being an authoritarian. No, he is obeying the laws as written. That's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. And Judge Jeanine calls out this nonsense and calls for even more things to happen under the legal codes, but that's going to be up to home rule. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.